we know from experience, this is 18 years for us now, often the greatest breakthroughs happen when you're feeling that discomfort, that temptation to quit, right? The greatest breakthroughs always happen when you're tempted to quit. Always, because either you quit and you continue that pattern, you face the adversity and you quit, or you work through it and you break through.
Hello, Adam. As always, fantastic to be here with you, and I'm excited. You have something on your mind. You seemed pretty fired up about it before we clicked record here. So tell us, what are you thinking today?
Likewise, it's always great to see you. Yes, I'm going to start off with a philosophical question for you.
Okay.
Does culture lead to winning, which is what most people think, or does winning lead to culture? I'll say it again. Does culture lead to winning, or does winning lead to culture? So what am I talking about here, right? This is more of a sports thing, and we'll dig into that a little bit. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I had a conversation with a client recently, and she started off great. She lost about 10 pounds. She was super thrilled. But lately, she's frustrated with her lack of results. And it turns out the last 2 weeks, she hasn't been using our system. She hasn't been logging. She hasn't been really in communication with her coach. And it brings up this whole conundrum of the chicken or the egg. And for me, I call it the effort or the results or the effort. And that's what this whole conversation is about, which I'm super excited to dig into.
Okay. Well, so right away, my head thought of, and this may sound kind of cheesy, but like a garden, right? Like you create a culture so that you win your flowers or your produce, right? It's not like you throw some seeds in the ground and voila, whatever it is you're hoping for appears. So that's my answer. Culture leads to winning. That's what I think.
And that's been the standard belief, is that culture leads to winning. But in sports, It's been interesting. I'm a huge sports fan. I love basketball, where teams that were once winning teams stop losing, and then suddenly the wheels fall off, right? And it's like, well, what happened to this culture? And it brings up this question, well, actually, maybe the winning was what led to at least maybe the perceived culture, right? It's easy to be happy. It's easy to be into it when you're winning. But what happens when you stop winning? And if you bring this back to us, it's easy to be into this when you're losing weight, you're feeling results, you're seeing results. But what happens when those stop? And the effort versus results is really powerful because it's very easy to put in the effort when you're seeing results, right? Nothing compels motivation like results.
Yeah, absolutely.
But inevitably, things come up. We don't get the results we expect. They don't happen as fast as we want. Something happens. And what do you do then? Right?
Yeah.
Do the wheels fall off, or do we dig in?
Right. Who are you when the inevitable loss comes to fruition, right? Because I mean, you can't always win. You can't always win. So, it's funny, this reminds me of some conversations I've been having with a lot of clients actually recently. And it's understandable. First of all, like, yes, absolutely, not getting what you want is super frustrating, right? Especially if you feel like I'm doing all the things, right? I'm making all the plays, I'm following all the guidance, and it's not going the way I want it to. So this has come up with several of my clients recently. And my question to them is, okay, so who are you going to be, right? Like, do we just stop? Do we stop creating this human? Do we stop creating these practices for you? Do we stop worrying about your health? Do we just quit here? Do we just set it down and abandon it? And they're like, well, no, I don't think I want that. Okay, so I think like what we're really getting at, Adam, is kind of your point here, right? Like we're building a culture.
Yes.
Right? And if we stop because the winnings aren't there yet, then you're just a team who chases a win. You're not anybody who has culture.
Right. And the interesting part is almost always the number one reason why we stop succeeding is because we stop doing what made us successful to begin with. And when you look at these teams, and sometimes with teams, it's a little different because maybe one of their best players leaves, he retires, but almost always it's we stop doing what made us successful to begin with, right? So you're doing things, you're creating that culture, you're creating these habits, these behaviors, this energy that you're putting forth, and you're getting paid off. You're getting the results you want, right? But again, oftentimes what happens is something comes up and we stop putting forth those practices, behaviors, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes too, and I've had this with clients, right? Like they are doing a really great job. They're making progress toward their goals and they've got a lot of good practices in place, and something happens and the progress slows down or stops. And instead of like taking a step back and saying, okay, like first let me check that I'm doing everything I feel I've always done that led to this progress, they just totally like abandon their car on the side of the road.
Yes.
Right? They don't check to see like what one thing fell off here. Like, oh, I have a flat, right? There's the flat tire analogy that we love. But but I think that's like a major thing. And people assume like, well, this only got me so far, it doesn't work. But there's, there has to be a spirit too with any culture that you build of evolution, of change, allowing change. Don't abandon what's worked, keep that, but grow it, right? And I think that can be a little frustrating because, I think all of us humans assume we're just never going to change.
Right. And to your point, yes, the old, what got you here won't get you there. But rarely is that the reason why someone's not progressing. It's usually you stop doing what got you there or got you here. Because the tricky part, as we know, is you got to keep doing what got you there, but you might also have to change a few other things to get to the next level, right? New levels, new devils. So we have to conquer those things, but you can't stop doing hopefully what has become basic and foundational practices and behaviors to get you to where you are.
Yes, absolutely. You're full of the good sayings today. New levels, new devils. I hadn't heard that one.
Thank you.
I like it. But you're absolutely right? If that's your foundation and you whip that out from underneath you, all the devils are going to crash down on top of you.
Right. So, going back to like the original question, which I love questions like this. By the way, can I give you a fun question that this is what me and my friends talk about? This has nothing to do with anything, but here's a quick question, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
If a genie granted you 10,000 basketball makes in a row, right? So anywhere you are in the court, it's just going to go in. 10,000 makes in a row. How long would it take for you to get into the NBA, or in your case, the WNBA? We don't have to answer that, but those are the types of things I like to ask. And it's a fun question to think about. Like the next 10,000 shots you take are going to go in, even from full court. How long would it take for you to get in the NBA? And what would you do to get into the NBA or WNBA? Anyway, so the type of question of does culture create winning or does winning create culture? I think the old adage of culture creates winning is the truth. I think that is the case. Because when the winning stops, then what happens? But again, it is easy to feel good. It is easy to feel energized and, locked in and, as they say, bought in, right? A lot of a lot of players are always, we bought into the plan. We all bought in, right? What that means is you're willing to do your role. You're willing to do what it takes to get to where you want to be because you believe in the plan. So we have to have that culture. We have to have those practices and focus on doing that day in and day out, week after week, month after month.
It has to be who you are.
Yes.
Right? Which is what culture is. It has to be who you are, because if it's just about the winning, that's going to come to an end. And then who are you?
Right. Right.
Who am I? What do I do? So yeah, this is one I'll be wrapping my head around for a while. So I think there's a lot there.
Yeah. So if I can share, if I want you to take anything from this video, it's, if you're feeling frustrated and you were succeeding at first, there's a few questions I'd like for you to ask yourself. Number one is, what did you start doing that you stopped doing when you were seeing results? And on the flip side, what did you stop doing that you were doing when you were seeing results, right? So there's often, did I just say the same thing or no?
I'm trying to figure that out, but I think we get your point.
Yes. So maybe you started doing things that you stopped doing, and maybe you stopped doing things that you started doing, right? Like you're basically, replace good and bad with once you started seeing results. Ask yourself that, right? Check in with yourself, check in with your coach about that, because that's, again, what happens is once we start succeeding, we stop doing what made us successful. We can't forget about what got us to where we are. So ask yourself that question. Number 2 is, are you the type of person that when you see the effort, when you see the results, you're willing to put the effort? Yes, I think almost anyone in the world would do that. But what happens when you don't see the results you want? That is the time to double down, right? That is the time not to throw in the towel, not to, puncture all 3 other tires if you have a flat tire, going back to the analogy, right? It's to fix it, troubleshoot what's going on, and move forward.
Yes, absolutely. I like those 2 recommendations. You got another?
I'm thinking of a few more.
Okay.
But I mean, if we're really going to get tactical, it's like, let's get tactical. Start sharing pictures of everything you're eating, right, with your coach every day. Snap a photo before you eat. That's a really powerful practice, right? Also, check in with the hunger scale. How do you feel on a scale of 1 to 5, right? 1 feeling ravenous, 5 feeling stuffed, right? The goal is to feel like a 3, satisfied and light, like we can easily go for a walk or a jog, right? You want to feel energized after you eat, not tired and full, not lethargic. Those are the types of things we want to check in and get back to. Make
sure foundational practices.
Yes. Make sure you're pausing before you eat. Make sure you're checking in with your stress levels, right? Are you making time for, fun? Are you making time for self-care? A little movement, a little walk, a little exercise goes a long way in how we feel, right? When we're happy, it's easier to be healthy. And when we're healthy, it's easier to be happy. But make sure you're doing things that make you feel good, that bring some joy into your life.
Right. That set up your garden or your culture for winning.
Yes. What else?
All right.
Anything else? I feel like we covered it all. And
I think we did.
Okay.
It's a lot to think about, right? Like, because I think it really boils down to, yes, the tactics help, but it's really who you are when the rubber meets the road. And this reminds me of one more client got tossed a huge curveball here at the beginning of the year. I feel like this has been like the month of curveballs, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's literally what I said to the client. The rubber now meets the road. Who are you going to be now that you don't have access to part of your foundational practices? And we're seeing who that client is going to be. It's been tricky, right? Like we needed a moment to throw our toys and feel things, but they're rising. They're rising out of the dust. The culture is there, but yeah, it's who are you going to be?
I used to go to a lot of basketball camps when I was younger, and I remember this one coach, Coach Carey, and he would always talk about adversity, right? And that was his favorite word. What are you going to do when there's adversity? What are you going to do when things don't go the way you want? What are you going to do when you lose? And like that is where the magic happens, right? That is where progress happens. That is where results happen. I mean, I always go back to this picture, for those that can't see, it's 2 people. There's one who's far away from, this picture of diamonds, and he's, seems very determined to continue to chisel away. And there's a person who's very, very close to the diamonds, and he's turning the other way, looking all, defeated. And you never want to be this person on the bottom where he's so close to where he wants to be, yet he turns around and gives up feeling defeated. And, we know from experience, this is 18 years for us now. Often the greatest breakthroughs happen when you're feeling that discomfort, that temptation to quit, right? The greatest breakthroughs always happen when you're tempted to quit. Always, because either you quit and you continue that pattern, you face the adversity and you quit, or you work through it and you break through. And you have us in your corner, right? This is what I talk about, FDR, fear, discomfort, doubt, resistance. This is all part of it. Lean into it. Talk with your coach about it. Feel free to reach out to me directly or Haley. We are here for you. We want to help you work through this. That is why success is inevitable. That is why I believe so strongly in what we do. And it's why we've been able to do what we do for so long.
Yes, we definitely have a culture and we support growing that culture of facing adversity, working through it, knowing that, we can be the type of people, that person who can handle it, who can withstand it and get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, I think we've said it all, unless there's anything else you want to share with us.
That's it. I think we
Okay.
said it all as well. I'm excited to hear what you guys think of this. As always, feel free to share your comments, email us. Let us know, do you think culture creates winning? Does winning create culture? Let me know how many shots you think it takes to get into the NBA or WNBA. We want to hear from you.
Sounds good, Adam. All right, gang, take good care and we'll see you next time.